Okay, hey everybody, welcome to an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. To have a really cool review for you guys from the brand Traska. They're headquartered out of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, and they were founded by John Mack with the intention of making a watch that you could wear every day without worrying about. A true tool watch fit for any activity. Now, in terms of type of watch, this is an everyday watch. Some key characteristics and design language. You're looking for something you can wear every day. Of course, you're going to find that versatile blend of both sporty and dressy attributes. This is their Commuter 38 in the new colorway, that Adriatic blue. And in terms of the 5th generation, or the reference 8233, it is very, very well done. These updates are incremental, but they do make a big difference. Now, in terms of the Commuter as a whole, it's essentially unapologetically understated yet striking in appearance. The Commuter is an all-out sport watch designed to be the perfect companion for any occasion. Now, 5th gen upgrades include additional layers of AR coating, grade A BGW9, and quick release spring bars. These go for $670 direct shipped. And this is not the first Traska I reviewed or the first Commuter 38. And I'm continually impressed with this brand. And big shout out to John for sending this piece in for me to share with you all. So with all of that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, as you can see, really gorgeous shade of blue here. I like that it's not ultra saturated. It is dark, which is nice. And of course, it does have that beautiful sun ray effect. So you're going to get a nice play in terms of some contrast, deeper midnight blues with some brighter, more vibrant blues. But even the brighter blue is less saturated. Again, something a bit different that I absolutely can appreciate. It makes it actually very, very versatile. And although not at all the texture of denim, it does give me that kind of denim colorway in terms of that, the deep colors in terms of the blue with some of the more brighter fades that can be a bit of a grayish blue. So very, very cool tone of blue. Now, in terms of the size here, guys, 38.5 millimeters in diameter, 10.6 millimeters thick, and that's including that nicely done box domed sapphire. Getting 46 millimeters lug to lug, again, helps this wear just beautifully. And it has a 316L stainless steel construction with scratch resistant hard coating, which actually adds 1,000 hardness Vickers, which is great. This is brushed with finely polished chamfers. As you guys can see there, look at that beautiful transition. And yeah, just so you know, it also has drilled lugs, which is a beautiful thing. And of course, it does have those quick release spring bars, which is also quite nice. Now, just when you think about the hardness coating, guys, just so you know, 316L is normally around 200 hardness Vickers. So the fact that this is around 1200, I think, is overall a win. And of course, the coating on here is actually quite clear. So the more recent generations, they've really done a great job of that. But other brands, as well as, you know, even previous iterations, early editions of Traska's had more of a dark hue to them. That's not the case here. This definitely feels like a nice, beautiful, bright stainless steel. Now, getting into the crystal, you're going to get this beautiful box double dome sapphire with an inner anti-reflective coating, and it is more coated, so you're going to have more clarity. As you guys can see, that crystal is really hard to spot except for the outer reaches of the box dome, where you're going to have a little bit of angle there. But even at harsh angle over the center stack, you're going to see very, very legible with very little distortion. But the distortion that you do get, I think, is quite pleasing to the eye. It has that kind of wet look where it looks like maybe a drop of water laying on top. So you're going to have some nice sculpted curves there while still maintaining a very high legibility. Now, getting into the bezel, it is a fixed bezel with a nice radial sunburst to it, as well as a high polished bevel. As you guys can see, screw down crown, very nicely done. Look at the signage there on that. Very sharp, not sharp to the touch, but sharp in terms of execution. Beautifully done. Of course, high polished flanks here, and then that beautiful sharp transition. Now, the movement, although you can't see it through this solid case back, which does help maintain that thinness, is going to be your automatic Miota 9039. And of course, that's a no date specific model. And this is a no date specific watch in terms of that dial. But you do forego the ghost position thanks to it being a no date model. Which is nice. So when you pull out the crown, it's going to just be basically there to wind or to hack. You're not going to be able to spin through any extra positions where there's not a date, which is nice. And if you do want a date, that's an option as well. And they have that powered by the Miota 9019. So getting into this dial here, guys, blue sunray dial. Hard to describe the blue, but I will say it's less saturated. I would say pale, but it's not pale. It's still a dark blue. In terms of the hands, they are brushed with polished bevels, which is very, very nice in terms of just the fine details that you're going to get with this handset. Ooh. You're getting BGW9 like before, but now it's been upgraded to grade A Lume, which is great. Also, you're going to have 100 meters of water resistance, a staple kind of within Traska in terms of them having screw-down crowns and well-sealed watches. Now, the lug width on here is a perfect 20 millimeters, which is fantastic. And you can see with every new generation, they just tighten up these tolerances more. They make these end links that much sharper there in terms of the 3D milling. So another high point. Now, in terms of this bracelet, also fully articulated. So it has a 3-link style. It is fully 3 links, but you can also notice, look at that. It's not a fixed link, so it's not an Oyster style at all. There is going to be a little bit of room in between because you're going to have that full articulation. Again, if you wanted to stack this bracelet or something just to kind of get a look. Now, what does that actually mean for you? It really doesn't mean that much for the wear, but I will say getting the watch on and off means that you're going to have a lot more versatility on that, because this now is going to be able to drape in ways because this is going to be fully articulated. So it's going to make things more comfortable to get it on and off the wrist, but on the wrist, it's not going to make as much of a difference. But I will say that it does make a difference, and it is typically folks' preference to have it be more articulated versus less, because that means you can just get it more comfortably dialed in on wrist. Now, you're going to have this nice 20 millimeter bracelet that does taper down to 16 millimeters. And it does have a screw pin construction, as you guys can see, one-sided screws there as well. So solid on the opposite ends. Very nice, all fully milled. Even some nice perlage decoration here, as well as this push button. Ooh. Yes. Very nice. 6-position toolless micro adjustment, and you're even going to get 2 half links there. So you do have some options. For me, to get this to be a nice proper fit, I actually removed all the half links and I dialed everything in, and it fits really, really beautifully. Now, also, I forgot to mention, very nicely signed, very clean, not overly done, no billboarding here. And of course, you're still going to get the beautiful fine finishes and transitions. So very nice. So with that said, let's actually get it on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, guys, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, or 19 centimeters in circumference, it wears really beautifully. And some people are going to prefer smaller, and guess what? They have smaller options. But this one really hits for me at the 38 millimeters. It's just perfect. It's 38 and a half. And yeah, again, perfect fit. Really beautiful. Of course, if I get my wrist a bit too close to the camera lens, it's just going to make the watch seem a lot larger than it actually is. You're going to notice all of a sudden that dial seems bigger comparatively. You're seeing more of the sides kind of fall off there in terms of the bracelet. But if I keep my wrist nice and low, all of a sudden you're noticing it looks oh, more centered, and you're seeing more of the sides. All of a sudden, my wrist looks almost a bit flatter, and that is because there's going to be a fair amount of perspective distortion the closer I have my hand to the camera lens. So I'll just keep my wrist nice and low and then just tighten up the frame here so that you guys can get still a detailed look, but just add a bit of a truer aspect ratio as to how this may lay on your own wrist, and check that out. Ooh, that looks outstanding, beautifully thin. Wonderfully organic in terms of the curvature there. Everything lays and hangs very nicely. And some of you may be upset that I haven't brought up the fact that this watch looks very similar to a Rolex Oyster Perpetual. I will say, yeah, it has a lot in common with it until you actually look at a Rolex Oyster Perpetual, and there's a lot of differences. So this is by no means, I think it's fair to say it's an homage to that watch, but I wouldn't call it anything more than that. And I think some people will see this as a bit of a copy. But again, spend some time with an actual Oyster Perpetual. You'll find a lot of beautiful nuances in terms of those differences. And again, the more plain something is, the less distinctive it can be. But I find, Traska's done their due diligence in terms of creating that differentiation in a lot of these ornate details here. And of course, another big difference is the brand itself and their mission statement, right? Like they're not trying to create family heirlooms or, watches that are meant to be flipped. These are meant to be worn. And I think if the trajectory that the brand's on, hey, if they get there eventually, that's fantastic for all of us collectors. If not, though, anybody, even if you're not a collector, if you just have this watch, hardened steel, you're going to get just all of the right specs there. This is a fantastic everyday timepiece that can literally be worn every day because it's capable and sporty enough, but it's also, again, subdued and clean and classic enough to where it can be dressed up quite nicely. So with that said, let's actually get it off the wrist, set up for some Lume shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Hey. As you guys can see, that Lume is just stellar, especially considering the fact that this is not a dive watch. This is something, again, that can be quite dressy, which is nice, but also still quite capable. Now, one thing I always like to work in is going to be a bit of a low light transition because you're always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath the overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it is nice with these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. As you guys can see, wow, the brushing on here is quite nice. Of course, the deep, glossy, high polished accents, again, quite beautiful. And then this dial, you can almost wash it out, but it's still quite legible thanks to those bold, high polished surrounds on those indices. And I do like the sunray patterning here. Very nice. Again, quite subtle, quite dynamic, high contrast there. And really, if I can kind of force it to wash out a bit, again, still quite legible. And then we get into the dark and bam, it's going to be legible thanks to that really strong lume. So this is just an absolute looker while not shouting at your face, which is great. It's a great looking watch, but it's not screaming. It's not overdoing anything. It's not trying too hard. It's nice and subtle. So in terms of closing thoughts, guys, on the wrist, perfect proportions, very comfortable and balanced wear. That hard coating, of course, is less noticeable visually than in previous generations. So good on Traska. In terms of model variants, check the site links for current options and availability. These are often made in smaller batches and they sell out quite quickly. In terms of comparable models, guys, while many brands have focused on kind of explorer-like alternatives, it's really great to see some slightly dressier, more versatile Oyster Perpetual alternatives become more available. This really gives me many of the same vibes, of a watch that I love, my $1,700 Monta Noble, for less than half the price. Really costing closer to a third of the price. And I love that watch. I love this watch as well. So for me, guys, bottom line, there's a huge market for the perfect everyday watch. And the Commuter delivers a truly competitive option for well under $1,000. It's complex enough to be appreciated by enthusiasts and non-aficionados alike, but never to the point of feeling overstyled or overdone. So I love that they exercise restraint here, while still being subtle enough to maintain maximum versatility with a clean, classic aesthetic that really will never overpower your wrist. And with unique offerings across 34 millimeters, 36 millimeters, and 38 millimeter size ranges, there's pretty much an option for almost anyone. But let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please do a like. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.